Taking place in Russia in the year 2140, when women worldwide have conquered their male counterparts, the show depicts a futuristic world run by female leaders. They've abandoned the overpopulated metropolis for the countryside, where each family has its own villa. In fact, an artificial intelligence, AI, maid service does all of the mundane tasks around the house. They can take body temperatures, prepare meals, choose entertainment based on their owner's emotional states, and even create original wardrobes for them. The average life expectancy of women has increased to 150 years since men became the minority species. This is all because to the elimination of prejudice, aggression, and warfare. Lisa, a 50-year-old lady who teaches history at a nearby school, is the film's main character. In the morning, she turns on the TV and sees a lady holding a sign, rallying for some cause close to her heart. She advocates for the right of all women to conceive naturally with males rather than through artificial insemination. Lisa laughs off the news and continues getting ready for work. She eventually leaves for work, and we are given a quick summary of the society's reliance on technology, charity, and discipline. There are food stands beside the roadways where ladies may get free food. You may make a video call with the tap of a finger. Even minor infractions like improper trash disposal can result in monetary penalties. Social points, which function as currency in this universe, are deducted as punishment for such infractions. Plus, people are rewarded with extra favor in society if they follow orders and perform a good job. Lisa then gets to work, which is a futuristic shuttle with a few pupils living on board. She jumps right into showing a film about human history at the beginning of class. Mankind's history demonstrates that males have held positions of power since the beginning of time. Only violence and hatred sprang from it. Years turned into decades, and little improved. If anything, the planet fell further into issues like soaring temperatures and a depleted ozone layer. A catastrophic confrontation between the United States and North Korea in the year 2030 altered the course of history. In an effort to wipe out the male population of the U.S. Armed Forces, scientists in Pyongyang created a virus. However, the virus rapidly disseminated to neighboring regions, where it killed off 99% of the world's male population. The film continues to highlight how women, once in power, have been gradually undoing men's ill-fated initiatives. There was a marked decline in the rate at which the planet was warming, pollution levels fell, animal populations increased, and the planet gradually became a better place to live. Finally, the film reveals that the birth of males, or primates, has become increasingly rare, and that those who do grow up are transported to an abandoned section of the city with outdated equipment. Here, we learn that men are often viewed as stupid animals that care only about mating and killing each other. Following the lecture, Lisa brings the young ladies to the colony's outskirts, where they may get a glimpse of the men's quarters. The cities became slums with the fall of man. Then, we visit the ghetto where some so-called primitive people live. Their lives are uncomplicated because they make relatively little use of technology and social conventions. There are even women to be seen, most likely defiant outsiders who refuse to conform to the new order of things. One of the guys in town is a virgin named Jera, who looks just like any other guy. He has no interests other than being laid, yet he is always willing to lend a hand and think about others. Baron, a macho thug, serves as the slum's de facto boss. He wants to start a revolution because he is fed up with the dominant female culture. He talks about the slum's century-long existence in one of his presentations. Until recently, when women finally gained power, males weren't even considered human and were sometimes utilized as mere livestock. However, Baron's courageous grandpa eventually left this community and arrived in the city, where he began constructing the slums from the ground up. As a matter of fact, he even brought along a few ladies for the purpose of procreation. Lisa and her class go in as everyone is attentively listening to the speaker. It turns out she's taken them on a trip to the zoo so they may observe primates up close. The men's outrage at seeing themselves portrayed as mere livestock is predictable. Jera eventually approaches Lisa and a student called Maria as they enter a restricted area and tries to conceal them. Even he unexpectedly kisses Lisa in this state of excitement. To distract Jera, she immediately sounds a whistle, but this draws the attention of other men who rapidly approach and capture the girls. After that, Baron has a slapping contest with the winner getting to mate with all the women. Jera, worried about their safety, signs up for the event, only to find out that he would be competing against a gigantic. As luck would have it, Jera dives down out of the way of the giant's slashing paw, knocking out the adjacent Baron in the process. The women quickly board their shuttle, while Jera makes a beeline for his grandfather's house. The next scenario has a shuttle bus making a pit stop at a typical checkpoint to purchase batteries. Surprisingly, Jera emerges from one of the battery barrels once it resumes movement. Julius, the owner of the shuttle, is surprised to hear this. It has been revealed that Julius is a seed keeper, whose sole responsibility is to distribute sperm to females. Seed keepers are the only men in society who have the same status and respect as women. Even though Julius has never had a companion outside of work, he unexpectedly finds Jera engaging and lets him remain. The two have a lengthy conversation during which Julius samples some of the primate's moonshine. Unfortunately for him, he drinks too much and falls out of the shuttle bus as it is moving. After realizing that the guys working for Baron are hot on his trail, Jera comes up with a strategy. He dresses up as the new seed keeper, putting on Julius's spare suit. The shuttle eventually reaches the colony of Two Hills, where an unseen barrier disappears and the seed keeper is let inside. Jera reluctantly descends, and the stunning female cyclist proceeds to give him a tour of the city. Many women along the route enthusiastically greet him. Lisa is also present, but she seems oblivious to Jera. In front of a live television audience, Jera swears to have only healthy, intelligent children by chewing the apple of eternal life. After that, he is sent to his chamber for a break, but despite his status as a virgin, Jera insists that he wants to get back to work immediately. So, a worker ushers Jera inside the reproduction room, where an overweight middle-aged woman called Berta greets him, to his chagrin. He is then instructed to take a seat, at which point a pipe is attached to his mahood and begins a torrential milking. At first, Jera is hesitant to go, but then he begins to see images of Lisa and relaxes. However, Lisa, like Jera, has been unable to get him out of her head and instead constantly dwells on him. Jera is shown about the reproduction base staffed by attractive ladies the following morning, where he and other seed keepers like him are cared for. The lads spend the day being massaged and served gourmet meals in an effort to keep them healthy and content. Jera becomes excited by being surrounded by so many attractive females and needs to get some hand relief in the restroom. On the other hand, this sets off an alert at the base whenever he does it. It seems that at the Two Hills colony, you are not allowed to use hand relief. It's bad enough that it's unlawful to engage in homosexual acts, but it's much worse to think about them. Elsewhere, Lisa and her mother, Polina, and grandmother, Anya, are in court. The previous student, Maria, reportedly confided in authorities about being momentarily seized by apes. For this reason, the court is determining whether or not she and Lisa are guilty. Lisa informs her closest friend Tanya that she was kissed by a monkey, and at first, the news makes both of them anxious. However, Tanya reassures Lisa that no one will find out about the incident. The trial will soon commence, and Maria's mother Vivian, a prominent councilwoman in the colony, will attempt to pin the blame on Lisa. However, Lisa doesn't keep silent and instead confesses that Maria had requested that they visit the slums. She even provides video evidence from her AA to back up her statements. Lisa is going to establish her innocence with this, but her nasty best friend, Tanya, sabotages her plans by revealing that she was kissed by an ape. When the court hears this, he or she is as astonished as the rest of us, and hands down an 80-hour community service sentence to Lisa while awarding 20 social points to Tanya for her forthrightness. Meanwhile, Jera's grandpa approaches Julius after he accidentally wanders into the slums. This old man has decided to assist him out, but only on the condition that he not reveal who he really is. Jera feels he has no option but to give up and acquiesce. Baron, who has been hanging around there, takes him in later. For his part, Julius attempts to get things going on a high note, but Baron quickly puts an end to it by giving him the finger. On the same day, in an effort to improve his appearance, Julius gets a haircut. A woman, obviously smitten by his wonderful features, comes up to him shortly thereafter to treat his finger. Baron, unfortunately, is aware of this, and his envy grows as a result. Then he gives instructions for the huge bodyguard to deal with the stranger. The behemoth accepts Julius' challenge for a slap battle without hesitation. A while later, the town as a whole has assembled to see the combat preparations. The combat will start soon, with the behemoth taking the initial swings. He slams Julius with all his strength, but to everyone's amazement, Julius gets right back up. He follows it up with a deadly right hand that drops the monster like a rock. However, Berta often organizes walks for the seed keepers. Jera becomes frustrated with the trip's stringent regulations after a while. If a seed keeper has to fart, for example, he must first obtain permission before entering a fart capsule. Some time later, the party reaches what looks to be a statue of Greta Thunberg. It turns out that she is worshipped like a deity here. While most people in the office are in prayer, Jera has rounded up a few of his co-workers and urged them to take some time off for some light-hearted activity. 3 of the men are in agreement, so they head to the water to try their luck at fishing. The boys there have noticed that Jera hasn't been shaving her legs, which is a major no-no in the confines of 2 hills. In addition, they discover that he is in possession of a lighter, which is a potentially lethal weapon, but rather than be wary, the lads look up to Jera's defiant spirit and see him as a role model. With this, they are able to catch fish and have a good time until a neighboring fire alarm goes off and exposes them. As a result, they must spend a whole day touring the school as part of their punishment. Next morning, during one of Jera's frequent massages, his carer is unexpectedly replaced, and the new one turns out to be Lisa. As it turns out, she is serving her sentence in the reproduction base. Jera and Lisa are both stunned to see each other, but they say nothing to each other. The 4 seed keepers who broke the rules are taken to the community's training facility afterwards. There, students are subjected to a series of lectures designed to convince them that women are the superior species and that males are inferior and should submit to them. Other taboo social norms, such as engaging in intercourse or fantasizing about it, are also legitimized in the presentations. Lisa and her grandma, Anya, are also present for the trip. They stand apart, but both observe Jera from a distance and chuckle at his bumbling. Anya, who is a bit of a purist and has little use for the trends of today, thinks he's adorable. Additionally, she cautions her granddaughter to conceal his true identity. After everyone has returned home for the day, Jera addresses his fellow seed keepers to explain that, contrary to the day's lessons, it is perfectly acceptable to have sensual impulses. One of the guys gets so worked up by this that he approaches Lisa and demands that she strip down in front of him. To prevent things from getting worse, Jera steps in and chases the guy away, effectively protecting Lisa for a second time. Instead of saying gratitude, Lisa offers him 30 minutes to go before she blows his secret to the authorities. Meanwhile, in the shanty town, Julius is beginning to amass a small but dedicated fan base. Baron, infuriated by the outsider's attempt to steal his authority, orders his soldiers, including Rat, to execute Julius. In accordance with the plan, the party, including Julius, travels to a closed department store under the guise of scavenging for supplies. Unexpectedly, Julius proves adept at the task at hand, and he even manages to salvage a few tasty morsels. When Julius single-handedly defeats an opposing organization called the Squirrels, who hold that alcohol is the basis of all evil, everyone is even more fascinated with him. Due to this, they have decided to spare his life and return him to the slums. But it turns out that Vivian, the councilwoman, is not a saint after all. She is shown sharing a passionate embrace with Baron, the slum's dominant figurehead. The next day, Vivian checks the photos of the new seed keepers and discovers that the actual Julius is missing. She finds out that the imposter is a simian from the slums from the details Baron shared with her last night. She immediately gives the order for an emergency alert to be broadcast across the colony to her aid. Meanwhile, Jera, who is clearly terrified, makes an attempt to exit the area but is blocked by the barrier. He has no choice except to return to the colony clandestinely. When the sirens start going off, he sees Lisa and begs her to come help. Predictably, Lisa wants nothing to do with him, but after Jera brings up the times he saved the day, she changes her mind. Police soon arrive, and Lisa and Jera have to make a quick exit. Unfortunately, her ex-best friend Tanya sees them in the act as they try to escape. When Baron returns to the slums for a drink, he is shocked to discover Julius still alive at the bar. His right-hand guy, Rat, responds that Julius is a good man who saved their lives when he furiously questions the other men about why they didn't execute him. In the midst of the growing conflict, Julius speaks up and calls for a democratic solution. He argues that everyone who lives there has the right to a say in matters that affect them. All the patrons inside the pub begin shouting his name as well, and Baron is forced to concede that he must meet with them amicably. Afterward, they have a discussion in Baron's private quarters. While Julius supports universal freedom of choice, Baron is committed to perpetual tyranny. However, they compromise on holding an election to choose who will head the shanty town. In the aftermath of Julius's departure, an anxious Baron summons Rat to his chamber and demands that he, too, take part in the election. In his opinion, if there are 3 other guys running, voters' support will be split and Julius would have a harder time coming out on top. The voting ritual begins at night, and each slum dweller casts their ballot individually. In the end, Baron gets 0 votes, but nobody expected Rat to beat out Julius, and he ends up winning the election by 2 votes. As expected, most locals continue to view the latter with suspicion due to his status as a newcomer. Meanwhile, Lisa brings Jera to her house because he has nowhere else to go, and her grandma Anya attempts to come up with a plan to get him out of there. Unfortunately, Vivian's assistant shows up to inspect before she can come up with a solution. Anya has Jera, Lisa, and a pet cat locked in the closet before letting her in. Discover why it's against the law in 2 Hills to own a pet or keep a wild animal as a pet. Shortly, Vivian's helper will come inside the home and begin looking for the fugitives. Tanya spotted the ape, nicknamed Jera, and Lisa fleeing, she says. Anya refuses to give up the criminals and insists she hasn't seen them despite her mother's repeated demands. The assistant is going to depart shortly after, but their cover is blown when the cat sneezes inside the closet. Anya knocks her unconscious with a whack to the head before she can tell Vivian the news. Since the barrier can only be broken by a projectile moving at speeds more than 80 km per hour, Anya has now produced a motorbike and instructed Jera to take it. As a wanted felon in the colony, she also instructs Lisa to flee from him. In accordance with the directive, the 2 started out on their trip, with Jera increasing the motorcycle's speed to above 80 km per hour. The 2 are successful in their attempt to break through the barrier. The accident destroys the motorbike and rips them to shreds, but luckily they have brought spare clothing. Lisa has no choice but to stick with Jera now that she has been cornered. The 2 share a nighttime fire and a bed. Jera captures a squirrel for breakfast the following day and eats it after he prepares it. Lisa, meanwhile, is scared of cooked animals because she has spent her whole life eating only plants. Lisa finally lets out a shriek that draws the attention of some males in the area, signaling the conclusion of the episode.